Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 69 of Petty Please. Here on the Misty Morrison Podcast, we love to read or listen. We like seeing all the stories of pettiness, revenge, malicious compliance, bad bosses, bad neighbors, all the things. To be grateful, those stories are not our drama. Before we get into our stories for the day, our usual housekeeping, whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage with content to help the channel grow. Every little bit of engagement online is free and can help build the dream. Subscribing is the number one thing you can easily do. When you subscribe, you'll be notified every time I post a new video. If you are on podcast, please leave a 5-star review if you liked it. Anywhere else, give it a like, a heart, a thumbs up. On YouTube, hit the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. Anywhere you're watching, share it with a friend, whether it's long form or short form. Leave a comment with your thoughts on stories down below. Episodes go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. I have podcast anywhere you can listen to podcast, and then video format full length on YouTube, and I have shorts on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Okay, into our stories for the day. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/malicious compliance. How I handled being the only person in a group project who gave a single shit. Long ago, I was a university student majoring in literature. Naturally, I had a schedule packed with lit classes, and this group project took place during a course entitled Madness in Classic Literature. It was fun. The professor was zany, and the topics were rather interesting. Then one day, the dreaded group project assignment arrived, where we were split up into groups of 3 and do a 30-minute presentation on madness in an era of literature. I ended up with 2 studious-seeming partners, one of whom was emphatically invested in doing our project on madness in 1800 Scotland. She was persuasive, we were convinced, but when we told the professor, he kind of winced. Then he held us after class, asked us if we were sure. She certainly was, and he kind of absently nodded and said he'd help us find a couple of sources, since literature in 1800 Scotland is apparently more scarce than one would think. We ended up with permission to cover Lord Byron by association, along with an incredibly long and dry text about some guy who was either hallucinating or having an existential religious experience with the devil himself. Now, I've read some boring texts in my day, but this piece was far and away the most mind-numbing collection of words my brain has ever scraped itself against. That sounds horrible. That sounds like torture. To make matters worse, it soon became very, very apparent that neither of my partners, including the girl who was gagging over 1800 Scotland to start with, had a single intention of doing any of the work for this project. They didn't even read the material, not even the relatively short Lord Byron poem. Whoa. So I just dove in and did the entire project myself, including the required handouts that we were supposed to print out for the class to follow along with our presentation. That's when I decided to get petty. I didn't want to be the student who rats on fellow students, but I also didn't want my partners, especially the girl whose love of Scotland forced me into this mess, to get off entirely scot-free. So I memorized everything. I mean, everything. And for the worksheet, I basically wrote down bullet points that revealed nothing about the texts or their contents. The day of the presentation arrives, and I meet my partners in class and give them the worksheets. They're relieved that I seem to know what I'm doing and suspect absolutely nothing. Our time comes and we stand up in front of the class, with them on either side of me, and I pass out the worksheets and proceed to talk about madness in 1800 Scotland from memory, going into exhaustive detail on Lord Byron and whatever the F protagonist, I think his name was Tim, from the other text. My partners were silently, gravely nodding along for the entire 30 minutes. I finished speaking, and then came the Q&A portion of the presentation. Fellow classmates were encouraged to ask us questions about our era, authors, etc., and it lasted about 15 minutes. So I picked a student to ask something about the religious aspects of the dry AF text. I could have answered, but instead I paused a long, pregnant pause and gave my partners a chance to answer instead, if they so wished. I let the excruciatingly silent seconds drag on every single time, looking slowly to both of them with each question, and taking my sweet time before jumping in. Within a couple of minutes, it became incredibly evident to everyone there that I was the only person in our group project who knew a single gosh darn thing about madness in 19th century Scottish literature. So sure, I did the whole project and let them think it was fine up until it wasn't. Petty? Absolutely. But by God, if I had to read that awful story because someone else watched Outlander too many times, then I'm going to comply maliciously. Edit. I'm happy to report that the professor pulled me aside after the fact and said that, given our performances, he would be grading me and my partners separately. I got an A, and strangely, they stopped talking to me after the group project. So I have no idea what grades they received. Bad enough to cut contact, though. Bless. Good for you. Good for you. I love this. I like the way you did it because you didn't just out and out go and tell the teacher, look, hey, they didn't do any of this. They left me alone. But you let it be made clear without really making it clear yourself. They made it clear when they couldn't answer a single Q&A question, and they knew there was going to be a Q&A section. You kicked butt. You put the work in. And I'm really glad that your teacher came and asked about it and made the right decision to grade you separately because you did the work. I had, let's see, what similar situations did I have? There was one time, there was one time in my biology class. Love that class. That class had a great teacher. So there's a group project. I ended up with a group with three other people who were at the same table as me. And whenever we took the test, it was a test, not a presentation, but I don't know if it was a group study or what, but I was the only one who did well on the test. So the professor asked me about it after the class, and she just flat out asked, did they put any work into this? So I answered honestly, nope, they didn't. She said, okay. And so I got a good grade, and then I got dirty looks from them afterwards. Do the work. And then another time, it was in one of my very first classes. Teacher was really nice in that class too. I can't remember what class it was. Life sciences? It's kind of one of the weird ones. But just those ones that you have to take. I just thought for a second those drawers were upside down. They're not, it's fine. So got into a group project with, I think it was 3 other people. So I lived away from the college. I lived over an hour from the college. And I guess these people, they either lived at the college or close. So we had set up a time to meet to work on the project. And the only time that they would all agree to was a time that I wasn't already going to be in town. So I drove the hour and 15 minutes back to the college one day to meet with them. And I get there and they're not there, and I wait and I wait and I wait some more, and they don't come. I text them, and finally when I text them, they say, oh, we already met up and got it all planned out. We're ready to go. So there I am, mad as hell because I just wasted, a round trip, I wasted 2.5 hours and all the gas to get there for nothing, and won't know at all what's going on in this presentation. So the day the presentation comes, they get up to present, and I don't. I was not willing to take credit for work I didn't do. And I was still mad. So the day the presentation comes, they get up to present, and I don't. And they look at me like I should still be getting up, and I didn't. And I don't remember if the teacher asked about it before or after. I think probably before, because she knew who was in the group. Whenever she asked about it, I said, in front of the whole class, maybe the only time I did this in front of the whole class, she asked, why wasn't I getting up? I said, no, this is not my presentation. We had a time set up to meet. I got there. They had already met beforehand. They would not meet with me. They would not give me any information. This is not my presentation. I had no part in it. I was willing to take the failing grade because I didn't do it. But she was understanding. She said, okay, so they went ahead with their presentation. And then after the presentations were done for that day, several different people got to talking. And there were 2 other people who basically said the same thing. Their group essentially kicked them out. They met without them, wouldn't let them help. So she asked if we three would like to be in a group and still go ahead and do a group presentation at the next class to be able to get credit. So we all agreed, and we all worked really well together and came up with a good presentation. And we got good grades. So I am grateful when there are professors and teachers like this who are willing to understand that not everyone puts in the work and give credit where it's due. So, story number 2 is coming to us from r/malicious compliance. Respect time off and don't stress you on your days off? Sure, works both ways. I don't work for the best company. It's corporate, and the higher-ups have little understanding of what goes on at ground level. When I started, it was under a great manager that protected us from most of the crap rolls downhill politics. He was promoted out of the store, and after a few misfires, we got a new manager. She is very loud. She will get in conversations with friends and loudly discuss controversial opinions and swear like a sailor. I've had a few customers quietly ask me why I had not reported her to the manager, then roll their eyes and express sympathy when I say, she is my manager. Anyway, there's a system in place for who to call when no manager is available. We are a tiny team, and most of us work solo. If the manager is coming in the morning, we call her the night before with concerns. If she's not, and it's the assistant, we call the assistant. Sure, no problem. I found an issue I thought was important enough to inform her right away instead of waiting until the next day she worked. I took pictures and shot a short text explaining it. Food health code violation from one of our vendors. I got back, and this is the exact text. I need you guys to understand that if the store is not on fire, you're not being robbed. You need to be contacting assistant manager's name, not me, unless it's an emergency, please. 4 days later, she sends me a text scolding me for not doing my job when it was in fact a managerial level job, not my level. Then the following text a few minutes later saying, "Oh, you did do it. Sorry." And she sent me some points in our store's good job system. I didn't respond. I wasn't on the clock. Then she texts me asking what my pay rate was for my review. I decided to respond to this one even though it's kind of, her job to know. I started getting stupid texts from her like, "Do you know where the scissors went?" and stuff like that. According to the president she set, was not a store emergency and not my problem until I'm on the clock. I ended up deciding that I will not be answering her if I'm not on the clock. She calls, I let it go to voicemail. She texts, I leave her on red until I'm on the clock. Now the company has made a no phones while on the clock policy as well. So I guess she can't call or text me while I'm on the clock either unless she calls the store phone. That's a whole other can of worms. They want us to use a mandatory app for store communication, but not have our phones out. I asked for clarification on the welcome message on the new app, asking if they are lifting the phones at work ban or expect us to work off the clock. Everyone in the company got to see my question, and the answering, "We'll get back to you," that has yet to happen. Now nobody is using the app because policy says we can't. Whoops, guess she will have to come in person on her days off if she wants to talk to me. Maybe she should have not chewed my ass out so hard when I just sent her one text. Okay, so the part about saying, "Oh, you have to use this app," but then saying you can't have your personal phones out, if they're not assigning smartphones that are capable of using the app for you to use at work, that's on them. I'm glad people are maliciously complying and not using the app to communicate because you said we can't have our phones. That's fair. Yeah, I feel like managers expect to get communications when they're off the clock, but I understand having limits. When you sent her one text and it was about a concern for a food violation, that seems important to me. No, the store's not on fire. No, you're not getting robbed, but that's health and safety. That's important. So I probably, even though I mostly have a no work communications off the clock policy too, as a manager, that's important enough to me that I would have read it and went ahead and responded. I have let my employees know for the most part, like, hey, when I'm off the clock, if it's not important, like, I'm going to read it, but I'm going to wait to respond till I'm back at work. because boundaries and balance is important. And for the most part, they're okay with that. So yeah, she messed up when you sent one text about something important and she decided it wasn't important enough to be her concern while she's off the clock. Oh well. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/malicious compliance. Don't want me to do the work myself? Okay, then run and do it yourself. This happened a year ago, but I just found this sub and realized I had a story to share. It is not that extreme though. I worked at a buffet restaurant, and every shift each staff was assigned one job. Those usually being cashier, runner, person who goes to pick up the food when ready, person who changes the food around, table managing, cleaning, washing dishes, etc. I was usually the runner because I was faster than everyone else, and we needed to walk a long way to the kitchen to pick up food and come back. And we had to do it in 3 minutes, or else our leader would call the kitchen/us to ask where we were. There is a counter between the kitchen and the corridor that you pass through with the cart. Usually you go in and ask for the food, they will put it on the counter in a few seconds to a minute. You put it on the cart and you can go back to the restaurant. But sometimes they will be understaffed and are in need of something. And if we are in need of something simple like sauces, green onions, or jam, we usually just get inside the kitchen and grab it ourselves. This is not a rule, it's just something that happened sometimes if they were really busy. In that case, we were in need of some sauces, 1 or 2 food items, and green onions. I know where all the sauces and green onions were, so after asking for them and waiting for more than a minute, I shouted, "Coming in, grabbing green onions," and went into the kitchen. As I was pouring the pre-cut onions into a bowl, one of the chefs walked in on my direction screaming for me to leave the food, and that was not my job, and that I was doing it wrong. I was not. I asked him why, because we've been doing that for years at that point, and he said that it is his job to do and that I'm only supposed to ask and wait. So next time I needed something, I entered the kitchen. As the chef was prepping something else, I started screaming, "Sauce 1, sauce 2, green onions, honey, this, that, this also, something else," until I finished the full list, which were all mostly things I knew where they were and could have grabbed it during the time I was screaming the names and waiting. The chef didn't say anything for a few seconds, so I screamed all of it again. And on the 3rd time, while he was grabbing one of the sauces and placing it on the counter, he said, "It's just me here, stop screaming, and just put the paper there and wait." I responded that I have to go back to the restaurant in 3 minutes or else they call to check what I'm doing, and I would have to say that he was taking too long to bring me the stuff. So I said, "Okay, just go in there and grab it." And I reminded him that he told me the other day that I was not supposed to touch anything because that was not my job. But I guess he changed his mind because he just said, "Forget it, just do it." But I have reminded him again that he made it official that I can't do that. So I would have to contact the leader to make sure that I was allowed to. And the chef had to run around the kitchen for a few minutes to grab everything I needed and never complained about us being inside the kitchen afterwards. Well, yeah, that was dumb on his part. Yes, it was his job. You were taking a burden off of him by going and grabbing the things you could. And he got upset about it. Why? Why? He made it harder on himself. You proved it. He realized the error of his ways, so at least he changed his tune. But I'm glad you reminded him about what he said. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Called my bank, was told they couldn't do anything, emailed every important sounding staff on their website, problem fixed in less than 10 minutes. Super mini revenge. I had made a mistake and made 2 orders online when the page loaded weird and didn't appear to process my payment, even though it had. Payee canceled one of the payments as soon as I notified them. That money has been on hold for a week, over 5 business days now. Called the bank, was told the payee was the one who had a hold on the money until July 31st, and there was nothing the bank could do. Called the payee, they were super nice, confirmed they had canceled the original payment and had no idea where the July 31st date would come from. Attempted to call the bank back. Called 4 times before front desk took my call. Transferred me to the lady who originally told me she could do nothing. Lady put me right through to voicemail. Looked at that lady's number on the bank's website. Called, put through to voicemail again. Sat for a moment, then the decision was made. I went to the bank's website and copied the email of every single person who sounded the least bit important, i.e. management, account supervisors, along with the people who had been ignoring my calls and telling me there was nothing they could do. 15 people in total. I explained my situation and included a screenshot of my outgoing calls. That email was sent at 11:36 a.m. The lady who originally told me there was nothing she could do emailed me at 11:45 a.m. to tell me we just went on your account again and the system let us remove the hold, so you are all good now. Direct copy from the professional's email. I'm slowly cutting ties with this bank. Can't wait until I'm done with them entirely. Edit, want to thank you all for the comments and upvotes. Rant about my bank becoming my #1 post has been super validating. I mean, you put in the work to get the issue resolved, but the fact that it took that much work to get the issue resolved, I don't blame you for not wanting to do business with that bank anymore. Story number 5 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. I used to own a commercial embroidery business. We got a call one day where a guy asked for a specific brand of garments that we got from our wholesale supplier. Then placed an order worth about $2,000 but didn't want them decorated. It was weird. Said he would have payment to me the next day. FedEx delivers an overnight envelope with a business check made out to my business. I called the company on the check and talked with their CFO. He was sick, but it's clear it wasn't from them, but was a legit account. I get an email from the scammer asking if I got the check, then said he would have a courier pick up the boxes the next day. So I fill empty boxes with garbage from home. I include dirty diapers, used cat litter, and more. 4 boxes between home, my neighbor's garbage from the street, and I top them off with garbage from the shop. I get everything taped up and wait. A FedEx truck shows up to pick up the boxes. I asked to see the pickup details and they have a tracking number. They took the boxes. I tracked the boxes the next day and they were overnight shipped to Kenya. I'm sure somebody's credit card paid for a crazy shipping charge. I never heard from them again, which is a shame because I really hope to have them get angry about the garbage. I mean, hey, it didn't go to our landfills, I guess. Good for you. Like you thought it was weird. I'm hoping the noise cancellation feature when I edit this will take care of it, but that washing machine right now is super loud. So if you can hear that after I edit, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, you noticed it was sketchy. You did your due diligence. You called the bank, confirmed that the check wasn't legit, and you went ahead and took matters into your own hands, like the dirty diapers and the cat litter sends it over the edge, because I do feel bad for FedEx and the people who have to handle that until it gets to Kenya, but that's going to be so ripe when it gets there. Those scammers deserved it. Okay, so someone commented first thing. It said FedEx actually does allow shipping of hazardous waste, but only with specific shipping guidelines for packaging. When we shipped liquid hazardous waste from the site to the lab, the waste was in glass jars which were then wrapped in disposable diapers. The diaper padded the jars against breakage, and if the jars did break, the diapers would help absorb the liquids. Makes sense. I mean, I never questioned it. I just kind of figured you lied when they asked, like, are you shipping anything hazardous, non-perishable, or glass, breakable, whatever, like USPS always asks when you're mailing a package. So that is good to know, I guess. If you need to get mail order revenge, there you know, you can use FedEx. Okay. Let's see. We're gonna go ahead and read a palate cleanser for today. So story number 6 is coming to us from r/random acts of kindness. I was given a surprise gift for missing out on tortoises. A few years ago, I went on a family trip on a nature cruise. It was a really inspiring, wonderful time until I got sick with a pretty nasty stomach bug that knocked me on my ass. On the last day of the cruise, I was too sick to go out and see the tortoises with the rest of my family. This was a big event that we'd all been looking forward to, with lunch at a cafe and an educational speaker. I was in bed in my room on the ship, not feeling too great when I received a knock on the door. The ship nurse brought me stomach medicine for the morning, along with a gift bag. Surprised, I opened it up to find a handmade carved wooden tortoise and a note. I still feel that same warm, tingly feeling whenever I look at the little handmade wooden piece of joy and think of that act of kindness that meant so much to me on that day. That tortoise rests on my shelf with the note tucked neatly beneath it. A reminder that even when things feel bad, there are still good things in this world to love and cherish. Edited for spelling mistakes. That one made me happy. I love that one. When people just go above and beyond to make you feel better when they know you don't feel good or you're sad or you missed out, and that it was such a keepsake that you'll be able to keep and hold on to and cherish and remember forever. I love that. I love that so much. Okay, that is 6 stories for this week's episode of Petty Please. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Remember, kindness changes everything. Start each day with a grateful heart. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for being here. Bye.